Happy New Year, David.
Jack, I wish you the best Happy New Year. Thank you for that. And let's hope that we do a lot of the things that we
Mm-hmm.
want to do because work is of the essence.
It is.
I want to practice more.
Okay.
I want to feel better than I have.
Mm-hmm.
How are your parents doing?
They're well, thank you.
I know that they're good fans of our show.
They are dutiful fans of the show.
I had a doctor of mine retired. He was a little upset that he felt I was a little hard on Van Cliburn.
How so?
I don't remember what we said. I mean, I think we talked about going to the Tchaikovsky and so forth. And he wrote me an email saying that, as Van Cliburn meant so much to him. He was here at his first recital after the competition and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. I don't remember it. I just wrote him back saying, dear Ken, I really loved Van, and I have nothing to say that I felt that I didn't, want. I don't know, but something bothered him. He said I was too harsh on him.
Well, I think of or I will paraphrase now, the famous lines of Whitman and say it of you. You're allowed to contradict yourself because you contain multitudes. Because I think you would be just as likely to extol Van Cliburn as you may have been to reproach him.
And I have so many times,
Mhm.
yes. Before he died, the QXR tribute, and actually many tributes to him. And he was very, very fine to me. At the end of his life, he did a little favor that he really wouldn't have done unless he had liked me in his way.
What was that?
Oh, it's just a letter of recommendation for a student that I thought who was kicked out of a competition and should have gotten in.
Okay.
Whatever it is, it was very helpful. As I said, he could have been governor of Texas
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And I think this man thought, he's not. He follows the Van Cliburn competition, and that he thinks that Van's name is not going to be forgotten. I don't mean that it's going to be forgotten in the lore of the piano. He certainly has a place with that competition win, but unfortunately that competition bred so many others, including the one in Fort Worth, which I think I had a spiritual feeling for it because I had been invited there 3 times, but that was 20 years ago. So if the committee wants to invite me back, I will certainly be glad to be on the jury or to do the lectures I did in Dallas and Fort Worth for the competition's opening.
Mm-hmm.
Because I certainly don't want to be forgotten as a piano maven, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been practicing at all?
I've been a little neglectful, erring on the side of my writerly self.
Well, you see, when there's more than one self, there has to be a choice,
Mm.
and if there's conflict, it's not good.
Mm.
So as long as there's no conflict, as Beecher always, I've referred to him, that psychologist that was so wonderful to me and for me, he would say that you have to give yourself permission.
Mm-hmm.
Now, today I write, I'm not going to have any guilt because guilt is such a thing in pianists' lives.
Yes, it is.
Oh my God! If they don't practice for one day, they get terrified,
Mm-hmm.
as if they'll forget the piece.
Well, maybe not so much speaking of guilt, but so much as preoccupation. May I ask this? Something that never leaves me, of course, is always the implications of the piano in every moment of my life. So even when I'm not practicing, as my book titles say in their rubric titles, I am a standing pianist, thinking of those things all the time. So here's a question I have, especially for David Duvall. There are many, many YouTube sites that have wonderful resources that weren't around when I was first enthralled by the piano.
Yes.
And I will notice more and more ways to easily access pianists of the early 20th century, where otherwise that would have been a real effort of record collecting.
Yes.
Now, do you feel I'm practicing a bigotry and rejecting something that could be of use to me when I immediately sometimes see that the recordings are piano rolls? and then suddenly feel disappointed and think, well, I don't feel this is a fair representation. I'm not going to listen to this. And the last instance was me coming across recordings of Teresa Carreño. Do you think the piano roll is still a degree of a glimpse into that person's inimitable degrees of articulation, even though we have no dynamics that are being recorded by the paper on the roll? What do you think? Should I still pay?
I never listened to any piano roll.
That's what I thought. Okay.
They have no authenticity left in them. There's to hear Busoni's piano rolls. I remember I wrote the notes to some of them on Nimbus, and they're laughable. They're so bad, and why would they be put out at all? And then he has one electrical recording before he died in 1924, and you know it's with the horn, and it certainly has no. It's not an electric recording. It's a horn recording, and he hated doing those things, and it's a terrible thing that his reputation cannot be helped by even that one recording, although there is a few little things that are wonderful, but give only a glimpse of the real great pianist. One is in the 13th Rhapsody, but the piano rolls, oh my goodness, you don't want to hear them, and you really don't want to hear any of them. They're just not good enough. There's sometimes and a few piano rolls that were made many years later from the piano rolls by certain companies that make Rachmaninoff sound almost like Rachmaninoff's electrical recordings.
Okay.
It's a disservice, and something that certainly doesn't have to have been done, because the commercial aspects of it are certainly not big enough money to have tarnished the reputation. There's certain things of Percy Grainger which certainly never wished could have been out. Terrible, just they're terrible, and they confuse the listener greatly. Even you are confused. Should I listen? No, I made my peace with them a long time ago. They don't have any relevance to the history of the piano.
Well, I'm glad I asked, because I thought I should ask you, because of the range of attention you've given to the recorded art, whether or not there might be just a little pin or keyhole glimpse. But I think
there are glimpses, I'm sure, but there, I've heard little things of Harold Bauer or others that, but it's not worth your time when I would rather hear Gabrilowitsch and Bauer in the Arensky Waltz that we talked about last week.
Yes.
That's I wouldn't listen to that on a piano roll. It had to have been in the electric era.
Okay.
Everything is clunky somewhere along the line. My ear will refuse to hear it.
And I imagine, to a degree, the one encouraging aspect about it, because we live in this terror of an overly technological world where we suspect everything's being altered. But the same thing could have been said for a piano roll. Am I not right?
Yes, of course.
That any little mistake could have simply been blotted over with a piece of tape, and that even the very thing itself could have been an artificial creation by punching the holes.
It certainly was often. People like Percy Grainger, who loved to tinker with all of those piano rolls, he fixed them up, and Bauer did, and many pianists. If you could call it an advantage, we can hear Carreño, who never had any electric recordings, and I think she died in. Or also the great Leshatitsky woman pianist, American, from Chicago. What was her name? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is we have to choose carefully with what we listen to. There's a terrible amount of appassionatas around.
Yes.
And so they're all good, but great interpretation is very rare. So if we're going to listen to Beethoven's Hammerklavier, we have to go to many performances to even get to know the work. And that's a very good way of finding out what a mediocre performance is. and it won't always matter as long as it's an electric recording. You are going to be able to sift out a great performance, but not on piano roll.
Okay.
My opinion only, of course, and there are a lot of people that are, into the mechanical aspects of them, and they like the idea that they exist. I don't. I wish they got, to get rid of them, really all of them.
I understand. I guess I held out a little bit simply because of my own memories and nostalgia. The very first piano that I ever studied on was itself a player piano. So rather than really using the rolls, I think I saw it maybe function a few times before it broke down. But the mystique of the mechanism was always there when I slid open the little doors as I practiced my early things from John Thompson, thinking perhaps there was some kind of early Edwardian, amber lighted, venerable quality to the mechanism, and thinking, well, maybe there's something to the culture of that. But I agree with you. I for the most part, think it doesn't give almost any view into what the articulation of the real spirit of the player could have been.
We can really learn beautiful things from De Pachmann's electrical recordings, even in the 30s, but not the piano rolls of 1905 or 7.
Okay.
There's a very nice piano roll that I know it's been fixed up, of Grieg playing his Butterfly, things like that. And sometimes you can let it pass if it's close. If you want to really just hear maybe semblances of what you think Grieg really sounded like, but mostly I wouldn't waste my time. I would listen to the great recordings of Hammerklavier. Let's say the most exquisite slow movement played by Schnabel, but the rest of it you can throw it out.
The Schnabel.
Yeah, I think you have to take this comparative performance seriously.
Agreed.
And not make notes or anything, but listen carefully, and you'll find out that the great Solomon, who didn't play the last 30 years of his life, he had a stroke in 1956. He's a sovereign technician. He's one of the greatest pianists of the 20th century. I don't know how he sat in that wheelchair for all of those years, but fortunately we have a big recorded legacy of his, and two of them, the two greatest of his performances on large-scale works, are the Carnival with all the repeats of Schumann, and the Hammerklavier, just extraordinary. Then you have the Aral Hammerklavier, you have the Ernst Levy Hammerklavier, always so different and interesting. This is what interests me, is the comparative performance. I would love to write another article for the New Criterion on comparative performance, because it really can open your mind to such a degree that you can't believe the differences a little dot makes, so to speak.
Yes, it does. Well, now, speaking of great performers, and the fact that because I love the book so much, Reflections from the Keyboard, that's caused me to neglect another of your books that I came to later, which I'd like to have you perhaps tell us how it came about, which is the extraordinary book, Conversations with Menuhin. And it's also a beautifully produced book. We rarely speak of that, but there's something beautiful about it as an object as well.
The American edition, at least.
Yes.
Which is, I think, Harcourt Brace.
Yes.
The American edition of that little book.
Yes.
Is so wonderful, and it was a great surprise to me that it ever happened, because I did nothing about it.
You just were presented with the presentation copy and saw how lovely it was.
No. Okay. An editor said I'd like very much. Her name is Anne Friedberg, and she was a celebrated editor. Comes out of nowhere, and she says, I loved your Menuhin book, which was published by Heinemann in London. Now sold to another conglomerate, a Random House or something, and it's still in print. They still have that specific. They won't give me back the rights because they keep selling it to little countries here and there. So I make $1 or $2. I mean, not much more. And they sell it. I don't know why they had told me. Remember what contracts used to mean? Well, they certainly, even by 1990, when the Menuhin book came out, Heinemann in the contract says in 1 year it will be in paperback.
Mm.
Never happened, did it? No.
Okay.
So I was so thrilled, and it is out in different countries.
Mhm.
It's terrific. Who knows though what the translation is? You see, that's the
Oh.
problem. But the one in American English with Harcourt Brace was Anne Friedberg calls me and she says, I really want to publish the Menuhin book. I love Menuhin as a
Mhm.
player and so forth, and I think the book is really interesting and valuable. And I said yes. We had lunch.
Mhm.
Very, very fine middle-aged woman. She's probably long gone, and well known by other writers. Even she knew what she was doing, and so I said, okay, everything has to be there,
Mhm.
and I don't want anything changed and anything. And she said, this is going to be marvelous paper and beautiful little book, beautiful.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Well, that's what I
And
felt.
there it is. I have it.
Yes, I first read it on a train between New York and Boston.
Little thing.
And part of the experience, which shouldn't be underestimated sometimes.
Oh no.
In the physical respect of a reader, is sometimes the physicality of the medium, of the vessel. Now, with that book, which is wonderful, one also has the YouTube opportunity to hear the recordings from which the transcription was made. And what I think the book does so well is preserve something that I feel comes across in Menuhin to a much greater extent than a lot of the subjects to whom you were so generous when you speak, which is great learnedness and interesting ideas, but also a sense of conviviality. He sounds, am I right? Does that seem to accord with what happened after you press stop or press record on the tape button? Does he seem to have that quality as a man?
Oh yes. I mean, here he comes on the Concorde. No, remember the Concorde?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, that was a beautiful instrument, wasn't it? That magnificent plane.
Did you ever fly on it?
No.
Okay.
Never. I wish I could have piloted it.
All right.
Of course, I don't know how to pilot anything.
Okay.
But I mean, would I love to be on that Concorde?
I remember looking up when I was playing soccer as a little boy and seeing that bird-like hawk
Anyway, so
triangle go through the sky.
amazing as it is, I was called by his publicist and said, "Would you like to interview Menuhin?" I said, "No."
Why?
I don't know. Some crazy perversity.
Okay.
Maybe I was very busy or I was, on a very bad deadline with the programming. Sometimes I
All
would,
right.
neglect the programming and I'd have to get going and work all 20 hours straight
Yeah.
because of our magazine keynote. And so what was I going to say? So I said, what am I? And just at that time, you remember how many times I feel coincidences push me
Yes.
forward?
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, I see a recording behind me that I was going to listen to because it's a favorite work of mine. The B minor violin concerto by Elgar.
Mm.
Sir Edward the Great, Edwardian Victorian. And who said Scriabin's poem of ecstasy is obscene. It was, to a Victorian like Elgar,
that's
who looked like a
interesting.
prime minister.
As a fellow lover of words and English words and the grades of meaning, could the invocation of obscenity not necessarily be a diatribe?
No. He was not criticizing the music. I think he understood it, their originality, but I think that it embarrassed him.
Well, that's what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
That in a very subtle way, he was saying it's music that can go to such a private
Yeah.
place that to a degree, the word obscene seems to emerge.
Yes, isn't it? It's a very strange word for music. You could say erotic. You could say very sexy, whatever. But this is something else. Anyway, we were speaking though of what? Oh, of Menuhin.
Yes, and how about yes?
All of a sudden, in the back is this Sir Adrian Bolt conducting the London whatever, and there's Menuhin's beautiful face on there. I thought it was beautiful man. And it's not his first recording, which was, this I think maybe his third. And I listened, and it was like, in the first movement, there was a moment of absolute ecstatic lyricism. that I had never heard anyone play it like that.
So, David, when you say not his first or second, but his third, you mean of that particular
Of
work?
that particular work,
Yes,
yes.
okay. Mm-hmm.
And I just, I couldn't believe it. And I ran to get, let's say, Heifetz's or someone's recording this and to put it on again. Because remember, we were talking about comparative performances
Yeah.
can be so wonderful that you could have a record just for 2 or 3 measures. Just that's, I long to hear it played that way, let's say. And he did it, or she did it. So I went and I heard a couple of performances, and then it stunned me. I just at that moment, an hour ago or a half hour ago, I refused to interview the great violinist.
So what was, did you then?
So I called instantly back.
Instantly?
Yeah,
Okay.
Agnes Bruneau, his what do they call him? PR. And I said, "What am I crazy? Of course I would like to interview him."
Right.
And
Okay.
so it so happens while this is happening, he's in the air in the
Oh, in the plane.
what do they call it again?
The
that plane?
Concorde.
That Concorde.
Yes.
Wow, there's a piece of exquisite bird abstraction. Huh?
Yes.
Going so fast. Well, and I'm sorry that they don't have them anymore, because I would like them to have had a plane that could make you go from New York to London in 7 minutes or 1 minute.
Who knows what may be coming?
Who knows what the shadow knows?
Yes.
So tell me though, yeah. So okay, so there he comes, and everyone in the station wants to get his autograph and all. It must be sickening to be famous.
Okay.
And so even there, everyone knew.
How did he
naturally.
handle that?
Oh, so patrician. So everyone got their audit, everything.
Okay.
And then, so casual, so easy, quite alone. No
he-
representative.
Oh, he just
nothing.
appeared by himself.
Yeah.
And this was conducted at the station, the interview?
Yeah.
All right.
And it was only after we stayed for 5 or 6 straight hours, he was having a good time. Didn't want to go to the bathroom. Think of it. Didn't,
Wow.
I said, don't you want some yogurt? I know you like it. No, nothing.
Okay.
And at the end, all he said, I'm going to call my wife, which, he was with his wife at all times, and he loved her. And, telling her, we'll have dinner or whatever, because I had offered to take him to dinner. And he said, my wife is waiting for me at the hotel dinner. And then he started listening to him say, he liked this, and he said, my goodness, you're my Boswell, and on
I
and on.
remember that, yes.
And the book was reviewed as late, think of it, as a few years ago, by Raymond Beagle in the
Yes, it was-
recording book. What
yes,
is
it
it?
was a record magazine.
Yeah, in
Yes.
one of the record magazines, important one. What's the name of it? I don't read any reviews, but anyway, he wanted to write a review of this book, and they let him. And if I could read it to you, I would be embarrassed. It's so wonderful on both of us.
Well,
he loves this book.
Well, I've read it, and you have no cause for embarrassment, because I am drawn to that book as well, over and over.
Such a fine man. I couldn't believe that he had died at like 82 or 3, and his mother was still alive at over 100.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And so then, how does the process begin after one? And were those broadcasted, the recorded interviews?
I'm sure they were, yes.
Because the reviews that I hear seem to be the raw tapes.
They were probably the raw tapes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then, can you describe for me and for all of us, what's the intervening moment or work that happens between the recorded interviews and when you commit to having them transcribed and shaped a little bit to idealize them?
Sometimes I would shape a great deal. Depends upon what the content is. As long as I don't lose it.
You mean lose the temperament?
It has to be quite exact of what they mean. Sometimes people, when they talk, just as I don't know what I mean half the time.
Okay.
So, I would have to then, okay, fix that up. But when it's in quick conversation with you and me, I mean, people forgive the knows, the ahs, the everything
Yes.
else, and even when the content is not clear, they can seem to get it, because there's some intimacy, some human liquid that just keeps the ear going while they have to, because you are listening to someone, unless you are faking it, which happens a lot because a lot of people don't understand anything you're telling them.
Do you mean who's the person committing the fakery? You mean the person who's being interviewed?
Oh, the interviewer who
That's
really not
okay.
even listening back. We're listening, trying to this. I understand any interviewer feeling this way. They're scared. You're always scared that you can't come up with the next question.
Oh.
And me as an interviewer for many years, I see when I'm seeing someone with an interview on YouTube or whatever, I really love to watch them and listen to them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can sense when that
I can
moment
sense
is coming.
when that person is not really listening because he should have been saying, "Oh, that's interesting," or "Thank you," but he wasn't involved enough.
Right.
That happens a lot on the television with the pundits. They
Mm-hmm.
just goes right on to the next question, and the person was giving an elaborate and rather warm or passionate response, and the questioner's just waiting to, oh God, let me get my question out.
Right.
Yeah, I always feel that because you're tempted to do that, and you have to fight that. Once we talked about a little bit about what I do with an interview,
Mm-hmm.
and this was always something that you don't lose hold of what your person is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Notice I usually look closely in the eyes.
Yes.
Because I don't want to miss what you're saying because you don't talk in the usual silly sentences, so you have to listen.
Mm. So now, David, here will be my question then for you in that framework of speaking to Menuhin. Did you approach that with any trepidation because his instrument was not your own?
Oh no, I love the violin with a passion.
Okay.
I could never play it. I wouldn't think I had any talent. I would have had interest in it because the sound is so exquisitely nervous tension to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's so beautiful. Honecker said there the violin is the most beautiful nervous system of any instrument.
Mm.
Here is this little thing made out of wood. That vibrates the whole world. It's just so wonderful.
Yes.
Baudelaire, I think in the book I have a quote with Baudelaire. There goes the magic bow of Paganini with the violin. It's a magic. It's magic.
And do I remember rightly from
It's too hard to play though. I could never have. I could not have gone. I like the piano. Oh, that's the note.
Right. Now, do I remember rightly from either the recordings of the Menuhin interviews or the book, you mentioned Paganini and Baudelaire, didn't Menuhin screen test at one time for a film role to play Paganini?
Yes, he put himself down to me, saying he was really a bad actor and he couldn't do it.
Okay.
But and in the book, I don't think we actually did say that the movie was finally with Stuart Granger
I haven't
as
seen it.
Paganini.
Really?
Awful movie.
Okay.
This one you don't need,
All right. And do you think
except Stuart Granger, couldn't look more like a great violinist.
all right, I can imagine why they cast him. But what makes the movie weak?
The story was totally inaccurate.
Okay.
I don't know why they won't trust anything of the biographies of these people, which are far more interesting than the writers come up with. They
What
just
do
lie.
you make of that? Because a lot of the old Hollywood films, as enfeebled as they are, still, for me, tell a lie that tells the truth. But if we put that aside for a moment, why do you think they fled from the original material, which is often so hair-raising or rich? Why dodge it?
This is a great question, Jack. Why dodge it when Liszt? You can't give a movie with Liszt with Dirk Bogarde, a great star, having short hair.
That's
I
right.
mean, that's one of the things that's characteristic throughout the life of Franz Liszt from age 15. Until his death. He never deviated from that look. And here we have the one movie that has a star, it was played by Bolette, the Rigoletto
Yes,
paraphrase.
yes.
Although that was played, is the way Bolette plays so wonderfully Liszt. Not ultimately, but remember when I'm talking, on a level that says, gee, I am not an authority, but I've heard them so many times that I think that I have the right to say that, there's better performances than Bolette's.
Well,
and
I always-
Bolette's high.
And I always hear when you say that, not ultimately was your exact phrase, was the idea that perhaps only with rare exceptions does anyone reach the ultimate. Hence, there's still reason for us to move and go on in that reach. Because if you were to conclude that the ultimate had been reached, to a degree, as wonderful as that would be, would also be demoralizing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it would imagine for the recreative world of the arts, there's no reason to go on.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Now, here's another question I have about the process that you would undergo for the recordings of your interviews. You told me a wonderful story once of Alexis Weissenberg giving an interview to you that you both felt was extraordinary, only to discover when the engineer said he had not pressed record. Is that what you had told me?
Yes.
Did that ever happen in other cases where something is so rich and then it's lost?
Well, it had happened not on the level of the Weisenberg. There have been important tapes of 4-hour concerts that were held at WNCN with Aaron Copland, Virgil Thompson, and John Corigliano, and you name it. They were all there, and they were all playing the music of whatever I programmed. Is well, everything was live. There was a live, and there was only one tape made, and that tape was lost. This is so historic and important that it always bothered me. In the case of my recording engineer not pressing the button, that happened with the guy who was promoting in an interview the movie The Competition, where he played the soundtrack, and his name is he was the 8th or 7th prize in the first the first Tchaikovsky competition in Moscow. And another Levine student, she sent him and Van, and he got 7th or 8th, and it was at that time good enough to sustain a nice little career for his whole life.
So
his name Daniel Pollock, and
yes,
and I did a real good interview with him, and bang, you may have heard it. Who knows?
Yes, it's still on YouTube. But
yeah,
you're
but that's
saying
not
that's
the original.
Wow. Okay.
That was destroyed. That was never. That was the same as the Alexis Weissenberg. After 4 hours or 5 hours of the greatest 4 programs that he ever did, he was so happy.
And that's just a case of the engineer.
My man came in.
Yeah.
My man. I called him the in-house monster.
Okay.
Came in and and supposedly loved me, you know.
Yeah.
But he didn't like Alexis for some reason,
All right.
and I feel.
Yes.
And he comes in and he casually, because the in-house monster is in every place of work.
All right.
And you are not allowed to criticize the in-house monster.
Okay, I know what you mean. Yes.
It could be of any gender.
Yes.
And he said casually, "Oh, I forgot to press the record button." I winced winced not only for myself, but for what was lost, and winced for the fact that Weisenberg must have felt terrible. Well, he didn't just feel terrible, like a leopard, a cheetah, a lion. He leapt on the poor guy, pushed him against the padded wall, and proceeded to almost choke him to death until I stopped it. What a hero.
Wow.
Yes, this was something that he said, "I will never be able to do this again." I said, "But, let's try it." And we did. He said, "Let's try it as well." And we did them in the 4 interviews where you can see on YouTube are there.
I know them well, and what makes them remarkable, once one knows that story, is they're good, and one doesn't have a sense as the story or the program begins that either of you are saying, as if I'm going to try to recover the irrecoverable from the lost one. I had no idea that happened, is what I mean.
Yeah.
Now, if we could go back to Pollock, are you suggesting that he dubbed everyone in the movie The Competition? So he
No, I don't know that. I don't know.
Oh.
I think he just was the Prokofiev concerto and some major piece. I don't know the movie now in my mind well enough.
Well, if I remember, I think Amy Irving's character plays
yeah.
the Prokofiev.
Yeah.
And I think Richard Dreyfuss constantly leans on the Emperor in the film.
Yeah. It was. I remember it was a fairly good film. I mean.
Yeah, I only saw it once or twice.
Yeah, I saw it twice, I think. But I knew Danny before that, and I also judged a competition with him after that
Mm-hmm.
in Kiev.
Mm-hmm.
And I can only tell you that he's a funny man, and he's over 90,
Okay.
and he's still doing it.
Wow.
And he's just recently sent me a recording. I was going to have him play in the class,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't work out.
What was on his recording? The new one.
I don't remember exactly. I don't think
Okay.
I looked close enough.
Mhm.
Or remember, I get so many recordings a month.
I've
Still,
noticed that here, even
still.
on your table here. Sometimes I'll
Yeah,
see
yeah.
the discs that are piling up.
And I promise the people, oh, I'll get that on, and then they start bothering me. Where is it? Where is it? You know?
Yes.
Be careful what you say and promise.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say that, I really mean it, and
Yes.
I do my best to
Yes.
eventually find it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like to listen too much
That I
because
understand too.
most of the recordings you get are just, again, not good enough. I don't want to hear some of the great pianists in Chopin mazurkas, let's say. There's one by Brailovsky, who
Mhm.
was so famous as a Chopinist.
Yes.
I heard him in public.
Okay.
He was past 70, was still playing well, and this is so bad compared to what you can, let's say, Friedman or other people doing mazurkas that you just cannot bear.
You mean
that-
Brailovsky's
Yeah,
work?
please don't buy this. Don't
Okay.
Then very early in my life, so to speak, there was a Vox box by the Italian. You may not know him at all anymore. He was a fine Italian pianist, so to speak, who played at town hall. I remember hearing him. Orazio Frugoni.
I don't know the name.
And there's a Vox box
Mhm.
of his mazurkas, and I had never, at that time, I had not heard all the mazurkas. It wasn't so simple to hear. There were not
Mhm.
that many recordings always, and there it goes. I put it on. It was so bad. I didn't know what I was doing. I threw it out my window on 300 East, 300 East 51st, where I lived.
Yes.
I threw it out the window onto 2nd Avenue.
And how high was the
I-
window?
9.
That's
It was a
quite
long
something.
throw, and it was a busy place. I could have really hit someone. I hope I didn't.
That's quite a variation on the discus.
Yeah, and I've had dreams about that. Who I hit.
What a tale that would make.
That is a good tale.
And when one considers what's being thrown, because usually...
Yeah. Well, oh yes. Of what I'm throwing the mazurkas onto 2nd Avenue. I'm so mad at. him.
Yes.
I'm so mad at this man for not playing them well.
Because usually in a lot of silent film comedies, the joke of the piano that's being hoisted up into an apartment is putting the person at risk on the sidewalk who doesn't know that this really heavy monster might fall on him. But you're figuratively...
I've seen that with
Yes. You're figuratively tossing the weight of the piano
Yeah, I did.
in this almost...
Like, and and I was this way. I could just and
yeah.
and the window.
Mm-hmm.
I was out of my mind, as they say,
Okay.
aesthetically.
I understand.
But what it could have done could have hurt someone.
Yes. Well, now that brings me to another question about the process of your recorded interviews that I couldn't know, and yet I think it's important. When you are interviewing the subject of let's say the pianist, mainly principally the pianist, and there are samples of their recordings interspersed in the interview, did you stop and did you listen at that time, or are they inserted later?
No, I listened at
You
that
would
time.
listen with the subject
Yeah,
sitting
because
there.
after all, the whole thing was over, an hour program, and the editing was not big. I was certainly master of the knowledge I wanted to imply with each of the pianists. I knew
Right.
what they were about, so it was not, too many errors of that way. I mean, I don't know why Beveridge Webster. Those are 3 interviews I just heard recently that I never knew were on, and Robert Tanucci, who has kept these alive on YouTube. I mean, you could hear hundreds of
That's
people
how I
almost
know them.
gone.
Yeah. I mean, they're an education unto themselves.
There are
yeah.
3 and I did this because Beveridge and I were colleagues at Juilliard, and I always admired his playing. But he could get inebriated a bit, and so I said I want to do a birthday month for you. I think it was maybe I did 3, and I didn't understand that this man just couldn't figure out how to get on the subway to get there, and
Because he was so innocent?
no, he could well have been inebriated.
Oh, I see.
I don't know.
Now, he was said to have been one of the world's great sight readers, isn't that
Yes,
true?
one of the great sight readers. I mean, my friend Stanley Waldorf, who had studied with him, just was in awe of the sight reading, and he could just do anything.
Mm.
With I don't know how that happens. I can't sight read. If anyone is watching me, or I think that I couldn't do it at all. I become ice.
Well, to go quickly back, just because I don't want to neglect it, what I think is strong, and yet another of the subtleties and the virtues of all of that recorded legacy of those interviews, is that I always had the impression, and now it's confirmed, that you did indeed sit during the interview and not insert later, for the sake of time, the recordings to which you allude, because the reactions are so sincere. It didn't seem.
Yeah, if there was an interview and you then put the record, you just have a list and you give the records to Charlie,
Yeah.
the editor there, the recording engineer. I mean, you're never going to have some sort of little sweat or something, or some little moment that you look in the eye and or you see that Misha Dichter was proud of that moment,
Yes.
or Charles Rosen or whatever. Occasionally I would have a little fight, but not much. Usually Charles Rosen would say, "Oh yeah, the Appassionata is more difficult than the Hammerklavier." I say, "What are you talking about?"
You mean in sheer technical difficulty?
Yeah.
In your experience, may I ask, which one do you feel in your hours of practicing was the trickiest?
Oh, the Hammerklavier and the 101, the sonata right before the 106, the 101 in A major, number 28. Oh my goodness, how beautiful.
How about from the earlier ones?
All of the early ones are beasts.
They are.
More difficult than the late ones in
Well, that's
some
what
ways.
I thought. There's some things that are really treacherous.
Everything is treacherous in early Beethoven.
I always thought the first movement of Opus 7 is tricky. Also, the other G major one, Opus 31, number 1.
Oh, that's an impossible
Really
one
hard.
interpretively as well.
Yes.
You have to, it seemed, be immersed in Rossini opera and
For that second movement, do you mean, with all of that filigree? Yeah.
God. Wondrous piece, wondrous.
And yet, for Beethoven, what a humorous ending, the third movement of Opus 31, number 1.
Yeah.
I will credit, in terms of a theatrical gesture that I had never seen in my life, seeing Brendel play that live, and in essence break the fourth wall as a pianist. I've never seen anybody do this to this degree. At the end of Opus 31, number 1, where it suddenly has that, well, humorous, sudden little, how does one describe it? Almost a whispered little joke at the end. And he played it the last 3 or 4 seconds facing the audience. I mean, he turned his head as if to...
Oh, how wonderful.
I'd never seen anyone do that. And that was
Oh,
in Carnegie
what a
Hall.
wonderful, that's true showmanship.
And it admitted the fact that there would be some crowd noise that would react during those last little chords.
He may have thought that most of all, for he said to me in that same work, Opus 7, he hated to play in public that piece because the slow movement demanded such silences.
Well, right, but I was talking about Opus 31.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Oh, 31 number.
The
number
last
one,
movement of Opus 31.
But same principle. He was probably, but this one had an element of such humanity in it as well. Looking at,
but yes,
not the way a pianist recently was looking at the audience during the whole performance. It was absolutely horrifying, as if, aren't I something? Aren't I beautiful? Why,
You mean genuinely turning the head to the right to look?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is so right. I don't want to see your face play the piano.
Yes. Well, I had never seen that before or since, and yet it was so well placed.
Oh yeah, but that's fine. That's
okay. Yes.
That's an exquisite little second moment.
Because
congratulations, Alfred.
I was shocked, and I mean in a good way.
It's about a year now that he's died, I think.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then another pianist that I heard that passed only days ago is
Gary
Gary
Graffman,
Graffman.
yes.
And I always, I guess, like everyone, leap to my knowledge that it's him on the soundtrack for Woody Allen's Manhattan, playing the Rhapsody in Blue.
Oh, it is Gary
Yes.
Graffman?
Yes.
I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
It says so on the.
Yes.
Oh, well, he had had a really wonderful career and a posthumous one teaching all of these people at Curtis. He was, I think, for a while the director of the Curtis Institute. I mean, everything went his way except the most important thing. He lost the use of his
Yes.
right hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I did interview him, he said, "And do you know, David, how terrible." I took out David. I don't like the idea of putting the name of the interviewer in all the time,
Interesting. I think now that you mention that, that is something that I register as true but never consciously realized it. Does that hold true throughout all of your interview books? That the
Yeah, no, I don't put my name on it.
that the
Inside,
interviewee doesn't
yeah,
address you.
no, I don't. It's
All right.
they may be, but it's not. There's a formality of the eye that does not want to see the interview's name. That's my thing, my choice.
Oh, I agree with that, and
Mhm.
maybe that I even maybe to a degree learned it from reading your books
Mm.
because I only note that now.
Hmm.
That I don't think I can think of an instance where the interviewee.
It's extremely fine to,
Yes.
to say that. Oh, Beveridge, that's really wonderful. I'm speaking to Beveridge Webster, or yeah, this is, and he could say, yes, David, I'd erase that if it's in printed form.
Mm-hmm.
Because the intimate and cool casualness of radio can make that work. It's lost on television, of course. Doesn't matter how many times you say their names. And I don't like to see it in print. That's like, I want the interview in print to have a formality that keeps you away from any possibility how much you know or not know that person.
Do you think also that you are also serving, I think, a really great purpose to a degree in standing in for the reader so that in a way the reader becomes the interviewer?
So interesting, yes. I think that's good.
Okay, I think that you controlled that very well because, again, they bear such re-examination. As I told you, I only don't have the dust jacket of Reflections from the Keyboard because it's one of the because I'm almost fanatical in caring for my books. They look almost like the day they were bought. But the dust jacket for that one has long since disintegrated, like newsprint does if you keep holding it in a human hand. So
No one. Well, I obviously I wrote that book for you, Jack.
I think so. Saint Nick brought it to me one year and it didn't leave my hand.
Oh,
Santa Claus knew.
makes it worth it in every way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And as I told you, the second edition, which was published by Schirmer and which is probably out of print, and it's I should really get it back in print.
Okay.
There are 8 extra interviews with Cherkasky, with Kallichstein, with Kissin,
Okay.
with I forget.
And the Keatson one you
Clyburn.
did. Oh, right, you did right here in this space.
Right here on
Yes.
that couch, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And going back to Graffman, who died last week at what an age, 97. How does anyone reach that age? Well, but I remember so poignantly when he said, but David, that's where we got into talking about the name in the interview. It's not in the book, but he says, David, you cannot imagine what it means to me that to know how to play the 2 Brahms concertos and not be able to do it.
That is hard to imagine.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to command the neural impulses here, but not have it come out here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The last time I saw him was at his apartment on the where Leonard Bernstein. We had mentioned the Osborne last week, talking about Bernstein's blurb for that very book, and Gary Graffman lived there too, in a fantastic apartment.
Okay.
And I was over there talking to him about what we were going to do and if he would play or not play with the left hand in a interview I did, which I don't have the tape, unfortunately, of at the Jerome Rose's International Piano and Keyboard Festival in New York, which I was in for about 18 straight years.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry Rose had a tribute to Grafman, and I interviewed him. And Grafman did play, I believe, a maybe the Scriabin Left Hand Etude. I don't know if he was at that moment still capable of that. Oh no, it was the Prelude, which is much easier.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a big crowd, and everyone was happy to see Gary Grafman. And it was a real, terrible thing that he didn't play, but he still had played the Prokofiev Fourth Concerto, I believe, for left hand, and he had, like Fleischer. It's interesting that these Americans all had hand problems, they all died. Kachin was the first. He went in at age 43, this great Brahmsian. Fleischer, of course, is gone at age 91 or something.
Mm-hmm.
These were called the young American pianists. Capel gone
Yeah.
at 31. Think of it. Byron Janis now dead a year ago or two. Yes, and now we have Grafman, who was among the foremost of those. He also had played and studied with Horowitz, as Byron Janis did. And who else? Only existing now from the birth time of that era is Ruth Slanzinska, who's about 101 years old. I believe she's still alive.
Yes.
And playing.
And was she a Hoffman pupil?
She was not a Hoffman pupil. Tchaikovsky was.
I'm sorry. Okay. But I felt like there was some other Golden Age connection that she had.
No, she was supposed to have studied with Rachmaninoff, she said, but
I'm sorry. Okay.
nobody studied with Rachmaninoff. He was not there to give you
Maybe
lessons.
she
Yeah, but she played for him maybe
Okay.
twice. Who knows? 3
Now,
times.
here's a question, David, that Fleischer and Grafman then posed to me. In my knowledge, which doesn't hold any degree of comparison to yours of the 19th century lore, I don't know that anybody from that time developed that right hand paralysis in the days of the Golden Age. Do you know of a case of that?
No.
Why do we think then the middle of the 20th century would cause the right hand problems that it did for two very prominent people who were almost peers?
And for hundreds of people that were students who had tendonitis during the especially 80s and 90s when it was really fashionable.
Do you think, now that's what I was going to ask you, because we spend a lot of time in wondering what the deep, unconscious, ulterior motives can be to things. Do you think, in a way, I say it, and I hope it doesn't sound disrespectful, that it could be a means of escape for some people who really don't want to remain in that arena?
Yeah, well, you're really treading on true territory that's dangerous.
Yes.
Because we're not psychiatrists.
Right.
Although I consider that I am.
Right.
Not a psychologist.
Yes.
At least.
And by no means do I mean in any way to say anything but my respect for both of them as pianists. But I'm just speculating about why it would, so to speak, seem to cluster in one bit of time when the piano was really shining with muscularity in the mid-19th century and onward, that I don't know of any other place in the lore where the right hand seems to suddenly seize up.
I could say or give you my theory on it, would you?
Of course I want to hear it, yeah.
Well, without any real depth knowledge of them and their lives, I think this was a very hard time in American life to be a pianist. And in the case of Byron Janis, also in the case of another one that stopped playing,
Mm-hmm.
all of these born around, the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Ronald Turini,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful pianist, student of Horowitz. Grafman Stewart, student of Horowitz.
Yes.
Notice the hands went on Pariah.
Mm-hmm.
Past 40, he became a student of Horowitz,
Mm-hmm.
meaning he played for him quite a bit
Right.
during the time I knew Horowitz. Mrs. Horowitz would say to me, Volodya can only create monsters. And she was meaning that these pianists were not playing as well as they were after, especially Pariah, after studying with Horowitz or, listening to him or taking his advice.
Mm-hmm.
Pariah was not a man that's hand could take the big Spanish Rhapsody and Rachmaninoff pieces that, and he went to him because he wanted very much to learn them and extend himself. He had a chance to study with Horowitz Pariah when he was young, but he did not. And then later on, after 40, he did take this chance, and he loved the man. Grafman loved him. Torini had great problems, but loved him. Another one that's unknown became a basket case.
Mm-hmm. Fleischer didn't play for him, though, did he?
No, I don't think Fleischer played for him.
Okay.
Now, Fleischer had a tremendous career out of the PR world from his... He was able to play very well left-hand works.
Mm-hmm.
He made a good living playing the Ravel left hand. He was a fabulously well-known teacher at... he was president of something or head of Tanglewood.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the winner of the first American to ever win the Queen Elizabeth competition in 1952 or something like that. Well, I don't know. Pianists are so insecure and fragile that I cannot discount something as crazy as it sounds. Horowitz and Janis, Torini and Janis, the others and Janis, Pariah and Horowitz. He overwhelmed a generation of pianists and destroyed them without them hearing him. What about those that worked with him?
Mm-hmm.
This is a possibility. I don't know. I mean, people are... they go out of their minds when they know. They have their own big ego and they're very, very good. But how can you possibly be better than the most comprehensive pianist of all time probably was Horowitz. Liszt would have probably, as Paderewski said, I couldn't believe my ears when he heard him in the Rachmaninoff Third in 1930 in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it possible, like Hoffman, he was, as a child prodigy, he was not exploited because they took him away from the stage by a great patron, the Corning man of Corning ware, and he was happy to play, as children are happy, but he became more and more sour, more and more bitter. The Curtis was invented for him. He became the first director, and his piano playing was on a downhill thing because of the thing called alcohol. Also, he had, domestic problems. And he was an unhappy man, and he was tied to the piano. And you see, he had something that he loved more or equal to the piano in a certain way. And that was inventing. He was a real creative inventor. As early as like 1905 or 6, we know that he invented the metronome from watching the, it's not...
invented the windshield wiper from watching his metronome.
He built with Konstantin von Sternberg an automobile from hand, and they toured throughout Europe in 1906-07, just having fun in their automobile. He loved his patents. There are about 40 of them still. He was into solar energy. Anton for Rubinstein. Anton, his son, was named after Rubinstein, his teacher, Anton Rubinstein. Anton was a physicist who had great mental capacities for invention. And when he walked off stage, so to speak, in 1946, he lives another 9 years. Hoffman just wants to stay in his workshop. He doesn't want to hear those things anymore. He said, I'm forgotten. It's better that way. Of course, he didn't know that within the 80s and 90s, people like me would start writing about him constantly.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to say, because, David, one of the most powerful images when I was starting to be enthralled by the piano, where I could also then intuit a lot of the deep clouds and shadows that came with it. You just used the phrase of Hoffman, tied to the piano, but you had a much stronger phrase in your writing, which is even much more redolent of the deep. No, you said chained.
Chained.
To the piano.
Oh yes, I felt that's the he was.
Mm-hmm.
He left the stage after the Chopin B minor, or he having great troubles with it. I mean, from 4 years old. I mean, he was playing with Von Bülow while he was of a different age, and now here he is. He's a truly modern man. He wants to invent modern inventions. He plays tennis. His hair is, like Rachmaninoff's crop.
Yes.
He's sick of it. He doesn't get the retirement of, almost 6-7 years like Paderewski, just becoming an orator for the war. And then he doesn't get that retirement. He doesn't get the retirement that Percy Grainger got for himself, and others. And Horowitz needed that 12 years off, believe me, because he was being overwhelmed by the piano. It could drive you crazy.
What was Percy Grainger's retirement? Was it, you mean, just retreat, or did he retreat into something?
Well, he certainly was definitely a composer first before anything.
All right.
He absolutely despised and said that all the time about the piano, but it never left him.
You mean the will to be an interpreter?
Yes, he hated practicing. He hated the piano sound. He hated everything about it, and I have many quotes about that from him. He is very interesting man, to say the least. I mean, and he was a true lover of the whip. He would whip his women, his wife.
You've mentioned this outside to him. I didn't intuit that from reading or looking
No,
at
because the man that composed Country Gardens and Morris dances and everything else is so healthy sounding that you would never think that he had, deviations from what they call the norm.
Yeah.
For him, it was not the norm. He said, beating someone up, playing the piano and composing, that was playing the piano when I guess he liked it still, were his great thrills. Each equal. That's a very interesting statement. It's equal to beat someone up with he'd come back from Amsterdam with and he would tell his lover, a Danish woman, I just found, the most beautiful whips you can imagine.
So does that mean in somewhere in the recesses of his mind, he feels he's inflicting something when he was practicing or performing? Meaning that it's not just merely adversarial in terms of the struggle to realize art, but he's also pushing back to a degree that he has to triumph over the physical resistance of the piano?
Yes, it was so complicated that you yourself would have to interview him. You would be the only one, and myself, capable of getting into because three people would probably take Adler, Freud, and Jung 25 years to just fathom anything about Percy Grainger's. The greatest depths of every man. There's a volume of letters called The Farthest North of Happiness from the Melbourne University Press.
And these are his letters.
Incredible stuff.
Yeah.
My God, talking to Karen Horney. What was her name? Not Karen Horney, the psychologist. His girlfriend that, submit. He had to have the woman submit to him that way. He always told them before, as they began their relationship, that he would would have to end if she wouldn't submit to this beating. But he had an instinct for a certain kind of partner who would agree to this.
It's remarkable. My first exposure to his music was rather late. I think it's called maybe Wedding Lullaby. It's a short piano piece, and I know you know it. And it's used in the opening sequence, which is so lavender and merchant ivory, because it is a merchant ivory film in terms of an English garden scene at the very beginning of the film Howard's End. And the main title sequence has this grim music that puts the title card there, that's by the composer of the film, but it then gently segues with this languid image of women walking in their Edwardian dresses through an English country garden. And as or you and I have talked more about them, I would never have suspected the layers that are in the
Oh, the
man.
layers were incredible. Mrs. Horowitz said to me, because I said, "Did Percy Granger ever play with Toscanini, your father?" No, she said, he wouldn't because my father didn't have blue eyes.
Because his father
The
didn't have
blue-eyed
eyes.
culture
Oh,
was the Nordic eye,
yes.
the blue eye, which he had. This was to him, we would call it racist. He had so many racial theories
I see.
that are very interesting
Mm-hmm.
and ridiculous in so
Mm-hmm.
many ways, but for him, creative probably. But he loved only to know if you didn't have you were of a lower race or something. He needed to have blue eyes.
Interesting. Wow.
And so Mrs. Horowitz said he wouldn't play. Think of it. She remembered that too. She wouldn't play with him because he didn't have blue eyes. He was so crazy, obviously, in
Yes.
many ways. You know, his mother, you talked about the Rhapsody in Blue, his mother commits suicide. She's only about 17 years older than him.
Okay.
The mother, Rose, commits suicide by jumping off the Aeolian building while he's on
Oh,
a
you
train.
mean the connection to Rhapsody in Blue because Aeolian Hall is where the
George
Rhapsody in Blue
Gershwin's, yeah.
was premiered, and his mother jumped off of that building. Well,
Yeah.
that gives a whole other notion to anyone who's standing in Bryant Park looking across where
Yes,
that building
I didn't bring
stood.
that up last week because I didn't want to depress you.
Well,
We were talking
But
about.
David, you reminded me of something I wanted to address today, which is a fascinating topic that I know you can probably address better than any human being. You perhaps will first remind me, the Rhapsody in Blue, in your opinion, dethroned what piece again? It was
The Rhapsody Negra by John Powell.
by Powell, and he was from Virginia.
Yeah.
So that brings up this topic of dethroning, which I find fascinating. Meaning that there are pieces that if we were to get into a time machine, we would fully feel that they have become part of the canon. And I imagine another example might be the Rubinstein piano concertos getting thrown out the window once the Rachmaninoff concertos absolutely dominate them out of existence. What are some other pieces that you think at a certain time held the throne, but now no one would have any idea that a piece that we now embrace is the piece that pushed it out of the public's eye?
Yeah, there are many that have faded from the repertoire. The Concertstück of Weber.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great transitional composer into Romanticism. I adore him, and he gives us the first example of the concert waltz in 1819 in the Invitation to the Waltz, Invitation to the Dance, which made Nijinsky famous. You know, as he came out the window, they called it the Spectre de la Rose.
Okay.
8-minute piece. Pianists they don't even know that the original is for piano. The A flat second sonata. All the Weber sonatas have been dethroned by just why am I going to play the Weber sonatas? We once said it's not even on the list of things to play entering certain music schools.
Yes, we had talked about that. The
Yeah.
things that are forbidden in the audition lists.
Yeah, I don't know why. The Weber sonatas were the
Mhm.
great sonatas from the 1810s to 1820.
Mm-hmm.
That decade produced those four. They're marvelous masterpieces, especially 1, 2, and 4. Second one was played by everyone in the world. I don't know what it touched, but Chopin said, when I hear the Weber A flat, I see an angel in the sky. That's gone.
Mm-hmm.
The Concertstück. So almost all of Webern is gone. The operas Oriente, Oberon is gone. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Mendelssohn's obliterated that fairy-like, stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't have much. If the books and the critics decide that the overture to the Midsummer Night's Dream is better than a Weber overture, they're going to go with the critic, you see. And over a period of time, the repertoire got logged.
Okay.
And many things. Debussy eradicated so many things. And there were marvelous works like Loeffler's Pagan Poem for Piano and Orchestra. So luscious. No, but nobody wants it now. Because we're not in a world of lusciousness, but we're not in a world of the Shostakovich era any longer, or Prokofiev. They've gone downhill.
I'm
No
embar-
one plays any Hindemith anymore.
Okay, now do you think Hindemith was dethroned or just had a lifespan?
He was dethroned by nobody. He had his own like method of composing in an intervals, but he himself sounds too pedantic today, and yet he's not. No one's going to give him a proper listen.
Well, I was never given more difficult duties as a staff accompanist in graduate school than to have to play the piano parts for his sonatas for other instruments. Very hard.
Yes, all those instruments. They have been
Like the trumpet sonata,
trumpet, the clarinet, the this, the
flute
that,
sonata.
the viola. I don't know what many.
they're hard.
I mean, so prolific that we haven't gotten to anything. We know nothing of Villa-Lobos. He wrote 1,500 works. He's dead 100 years already, and no one's published them. I mean, I think that you have to die young, maybe, and not leave a huge corpus.
Yes. Now, David, I'm ashamed to say, please tell me, what's the country of origin of Loeffler?
Loeffler was an Alsatian who
Okay.
came to Boston and was an actual member
Oh,
of the. Good question, because
Okay.
Loeffler's a really good composer, really exquisite craft.
principally for the piano?
No, not at all for the piano.
Oh.
For every instrument, so to speak, orchestra and solo works, but the piano is the one that became well known was the Pagan Poem. Beautiful piece.
That's for piano and
Piano and
orchestra.
orchestra. Wow, someone should revive that.
Okay. The pagan poem.
I'd like to hear the Rhapsody Negro, I mean, because it was,
Yeah.
they just so loved it. And there was a John Carpenter that Percy Granger loved and played
Mhm.
all the time. A John Carpenter 1915 concertino for piano and orchestra.
Hmm.
Gone. You
Gone.
never, Carpenter's gone.
Yes.
Amazing.
So, again, what probably could be an endless conversation, again, is the debate between dethroned or of limited lifespan.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're so good at trying to get out something of the reality of what you're thinking, and
Okay.
those questions are difficult. But yes, some are dethroned.
Hmm.
Hummel's Sonata in F sharp minor.
Oh, yeah.
Schumann's F sharp minor sonata certainly dethroned it. If you want to go by key, Schumann was crazy about that sonata, thinking it was the ultimate of the piano literature. It was his great hope to master it.
Now, let me ask you this, David.
Hummel
Yeah.
himself would be surprised not to be called one of the immortals. That's how famous he was as a composer. From from about 1779, when he was probably born around that time, till his death around in Weimar, where he had actually played for.
Yes, and didn't
Goethe.
he live adjacent to one of, or his descendants lived adjacent to one of Liszt's residences in Weimar, and there was some resentment between either his daughters?
Probably Alan Walker picked that out or
That's
something.
where I feel
or-
like I'm pulling that out.
I
of
don't
my
know. I
brain.
don't know.
Now, David, in terms of other composers that I only really know from reading and reading your work, and also the lore of great overlaps, the childhood meeting of Liszt being presented by Czerny to Beethoven, the composer Ries, would I be pronouncing that Ries?
Ferdinand Ries, yes.
Right. What can we say of him?
No,
Is he
same thing. He Liszt loved his C sharp minor concerto, played it,
Hmm.
as a child, and then all of Czerny's music, the
Yes.
1,000 opus numbers.
Yes, yeah.
There must be an oratorio or an opera or something that's good,
Yeah.
because Liszt had a great success with a big piano sonata in Paris.
Of Czerny's.
Yeah, you see the harmonic vocabulary when it became chromaticized. Every time you had a new generation, you had to add new chords for the novelty of the ear. So someone like Delius is so rarefied; it's his exquisite harmonist, but it's too rarefied for the usual ear.
Rarefied in the degree of its chromaticism?
Yeah, the chromaticism changes so constantly, way above anything in Tristan.
Well, then here's the question I would have in terms of,
Wagner himself is being eroded now by Verdi, of all people.
really, because perhaps people are fatiguing with the chromatic in favor of a
Not the
restoration of the
chromatic.
diatonic,
They're sick of the pomposity.
of the extra musical implication?
No, not the extra musical. Wagner rhythmically is so stolid that
Yes.
you would think that he could have figured out something throughout a long career. I don't mean Tristan, always accepting that,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, so many long passages of rhythmical nothingness to me now. Yes, of course, I look back and hearing it historically, which people should try occasionally, think, why did they love that so much? Why did Chabrier, such a different composer, say, he's left us nothing to do?
Of Wagner.
Yes, Wagner,
I see.
meaning he was
Okay.
so vast.
Mm-hmm.
Today's not so vast.
So, David, who would you feel before chromaticism slowly, incrementally,
Mm-hmm.
started to always obligate the composer to add some little piquancy until, of course, like with Wagner, it became comprehensive? Who do you think, if we go back to the question of dethroning versus lifespan, whose work as a diatonic composer, principally, had the greatest lifespan beyond the end of the commonness of diatonic music, where if we're starting to live past Chopin, then what is the phrase, and to whom do we owe the phrase that Wagner's just Chopin orchestrated?
Jacques Barzin. Yeah.
Yes, that's a great phrase. I only know it through reading your books, quoting the Barzin. Are there some survivors that you would say still had something to say in a diatonic frame of mind?
No.
No, yeah. I can't think of one.
Mm-mm.
Not one, actually.
It's gone forever.
Yes. Not without some unique, some kind of, in every case, however diatonic it is, new kind of piquancy of chromaticism.
Yeah. And that's why I don't understand Weber losing his thrust or hold on any public, because there's a Weber sound that will always refresh you.
Okay.
And I would say that if you're gonna,
Mm-hmm.
but again, Spontini, the Vampires, and Marschner, all of those people that were, composing operas inspired from the Gothic novel of they're
yes.
all gone.
Yes. You mean the Gothic novels?
Yeah, and the Gothic novels.
Yes. Mm-hmm. What an idiom, too. You would think that filmmakers would pounce on some of those, like Anne Radcliffe novels and the novels that
A wonderful woman, yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
I'm surprised.
I don't know. I mean, they're not a very imaginative group today, the filmmakers, even though
Mhm.
everyone on the street's a filmmaker. Well, I'm a filmmaker too.
Yes.
Please look at my golden age of the piano.
Yes,
I
you
mean,
are.
for very little money, I made a pretty damn good movie with Peter Rosen
Yes.
as the director.
Agreed.
I got an actual Emmy for it,
As I
which
well know.
certainly didn't give me any great pleasure. But
You mean the idea of holding the object in hand?
yeah,
But still,
no, this gives me pleasure that
Okay.
I have a new, How do I do that?
oh, you mean the fact that as I look with you in the camera, it's reversing
Right,
the
right,
name. Yes.
Oh, is that how?
Well,
it
now
works?
it's upside down. But hopefully.
Anyway, yeah. So, oh my goodness, I just got another stack of volume 1 of selected paintings and drawings by me, David Dubois. Get this on Amazon. I don't even think it costs much, does
Not
it?
very much. And volume 2 is very, very imminently about to be.
All the
joining.
drawings, not all, but
Yes.
not even nearly, but whatever we decided to put in.
Yes.
Jack has been so important to me. He's photographed them. He does things that only he could do in the world. I mean it for I think a lot of people that should know who Jack is as a writer. I know that a few at least know him as a pianist because he's played in my classes.
It was an honor. And again, you.
Of course, he played Ives Sonata, and they all say, "Oh, well."
Well, Ives does, I guess, require a degree of effort from the listener.
Yeah, well, effort is not what an audience wants
No,
anymore.
yes, yeah.
But get my book. Come
Mhm.
on, these drawings are sensational. The paintings are beyond belief. Buy them. Give me a chance to live properly.
as you should, and you do, notwithstanding the challenges.
1982 self-portrait.
Okay.
Love this book. I'm glad to get a group. The cover is in here also in the complete doing a little. Now this makes it all worth it for me. That one little.
That one little bit of
absolutely. And then here the DD, which I very seldom use. The two initials.
To sign a work.
Right. I usually just sign them. And
now that's something I haven't considered, David, because of your vast knowledge of the plastic arts. Is there...
My knowledge is very small compared to, a lot of people.
Well, that is
we're just having great fun talking about things that I know.
Well, but you do know vast amounts of those things, and hence I'm going to defer to you on this. There must be a whole range of implication to someone who has such a vast body of work, of drawings and paintings, to the very notion of the signature. Am I asking a superficial question? You invoked it to a degree using your initials. Because the other arts don't have quite the same way of leaving one's mark on the work. An author does on a cover, but it's really not joining the work. Whereas a painter, to a degree, adds some mark of his identity to the work. Do you consider that in the work of others? And does it tell you anything when you...
Picasso often uses his name in as a part of the composition. I do not know why painters wouldn't thinking that at all times, especially modern painters. Let me show you. Well, here's one right here on styrofoam, practically my invention, I believe.
Okay.
It's the most wonderful thing to paint on. Well, we can't really see it.
Yes, the light seems to very much distort the way that looks in reality.
But you see the Duval up there.
Yes.
If you saw it properly, you would see that it was put up there and left without anything under it. So
maybe if I take it in hand here
not
for a second,
because I
David.
want anyone to see my name, Duval.
But it addresses the very question that I've
But
asked.
it's part of the composition.
It's part of the
for
composition.
my eye.
Yes. How about if I may, David? If I were to take
I
it,
love
if I were to take it a little bit further back, I think the light won't interfere quite as much, and one sees that in the top corner there. Yes, that your name is as much a part of the work. For anyone.
A recent work, not in this book.
So,
and the signature itself, I'm so confident of the way I know how to do my signature. I feel it so quickly.
yes.
I love it. I love to say David Duval, not to see the letters flowing from the pen.
Yes.
Every once in a while, you're going to see a letter so perfectly beautiful that you say, I wish I could do this with every signature.
Oh, when rendering one's own, and
Yes.
you see and leave behind, like
Yes.
at the end of a letter, I'll notice what you mean. That if I sign my name, sometimes the J will come out in a way that I wish I could render it that way every time.
Yes, I love
What
that.
a remarkable topic. I've thought of that, but never thought to share that.
Wow.
And you brought that out. I think about that often.
My God, I'm looking at myself and I can't, I think that my teeth are out and it's not true.
But we all feel that, I think, in looking at representations of ourselves.
I don't like to. There are people that are magically photogenic.
But to someone looking at them,
Yes.
I think they
Yes.
too
Yes,
are. We can name any number of glamorous actresses who would say that they couldn't bear to see themselves.
So interesting. Every point is interesting.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to ask you a question about your books. You're a writer. I'm a writer. I've had the luck of having a few people buy them over the years. Some of them are still in print. What do you feel about giving them to the world? There's a part of me that doesn't like to give my paintings to the world. That's why I never showed them in all my life. Only now as an old man do I want to have a record, let's say, of some of my things. I always have dreams about the flooding of my apartment and all of these drawings and paintings, wherever they are within it, um, absolutely perish.
Mm-hmm.
I never really wanted anyone to see my work until later in my life. I couldn't bear anyone, because I know how people look at paintings and they are prone to open their stupid mouths and say the wrong thing about it, which is so far away from what the artist had thought. These are his children, his progeny, his life. He usually loves them. Like you got to love your book. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean that it's beyond criticism or anything. I'm talking about when you have them published. Now you have 5 or 6 books.
Yes, 6. Mm-hmm.
6 published. Did you ever feel like I should just save them for myself? I should not let anyone see them. They're too secret. They're too...
Well, fate or circumstances enforced that very process for me, where you're saying some self notion caused you to wait. For me, I tried to work so hard within the traditional paradigm of publishing, having an agent as I did, and yet they could never sell them. So the notion that they remained private for many 10, 15 years was imposed on me. So I don't know if I can answer the question, because it's very possible that I might have, well, no, but I made the effort, didn't I, to try to have it with the expectation that if they were sold, maybe could there be something different in being a writer? Did you feel the same way about your books? Because I don't think you did.
No. I want everything that I write to be published.
Well, then you share maybe what the feeling that I had.
But everything that is the plastic art, the paintings or drawings, there's a part of me that never wants anyone to see them but myself.
Well, I understand that, because I think one needs even a more subtle man or woman of synthesis to really, as you say, speak in reaction. So I don't think it's because you didn't want them to be seen, but it's unbearable to hear the ill-equipped react. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I remember 20 years ago some sort of expert, came over to look at my paintings,
Yes.
And after she left, I felt I had to clean up the whole apartment. I mean, I just her comments. It had nothing to do with I like it or not. Her comments were just so weird and off center, and nothing to do with anything that I never saw her again, and didn't want to know her.
Well, again, I think it's more from the fear of the fact that this kind of work demands a person who is a work unto themselves. Not the phrase when we say if someone has a diatribe, they're a piece of work, but that, and I think your works demand the notion that the person is also prepared to articulate something very oblique. And by oblique, I mean a very subtle articulation that's not, because look at the words that we both say we dread: lovely, pretty. And those are the words that most people are limiting themselves when they react to anything aesthetic. They'll spend $5,000 to go look at a mountain, and the real final result is Mount McKinley was pretty.
And there's also the idea there's nothing, it doesn't do anything to them. People don't know how to look at anything. They don't know what a flower looks like or how it touches. Anton Rubinstein wouldn't smell the rose, he would feel the petals with his exquisitely velvet fingers. And then he would bring them up, but he had to feel the petal, you see. The petal, feel the skin. I once felt the skin of someone that I never believed any skin could be like that. It was so perfectly exquisite to the touch.
Now,
and all I did was touch her arm.
Yes. could there also be a factor, David, that when, as it will be, that legions of those who have the right eye, and that legion for your work may not be a contemporary body, it may be spread over time, as the legion that can be assembled can only be assembled for the greatest kinds of achievements. Do you feel that in a sense by postponing that, it's actually for fear of reaching a time that would in a sense render one's privacy surrendered? That you've had a great amount of time to work and develop without remaining committed to one style because you became popular. And I've always cited to you that moment where Thoreau tries to twist into a benign result when he gets all the copies of A Week on the Concord and Merrimack Rivers back delivered to him, that I think he had to go in half in terms of the expense with the publisher, or he may have subsidized the whole thing. But as you remember the famous phrase, this is a paraphrase, but it's close. Suddenly he got back from Boston 700 copies of his book and just hauled them back into his attic. But his remark was something like, I'm an owner of a 900 volume library, 700 of which I wrote myself. But he also concluded that he was spared the notion, had that book been successful, that he would have had to give other instances of utterance that would match that static period that was now behind him. So I think, because I've always said, especially in this book, this very first book, and I mean this in the best of all possible ways, it has one man's name on the front, but I feel that there are multitudes represented.
Yeah,
I can't, in a sense, identify.
A totally different style.
Exactly. The styles seem to reveal multitudes with each page turn. So I think perhaps you could have subconsciously held them back so that you have always had that liberty to have different styles. That would be my absolute sincere argument.
Well, I like it.
And I think it's true. And I think now perhaps you feel the safety of becoming accustomed to being able to shift, so that when due reaction comes, you won't be pressured into answering to repeat any one given style.
Well, I think that now I'm ready to go to You Fund Me and take a big plot of land in Wyoming, where I hope that you're governor sometime.
Okay.
And we'll build a museum for the art only of David Duval.
And you would choose
I
Wyoming?
don't care about anyone's art but mine.
I understand that.
I love to see it. I mean, I'm overwhelmed by everybody.
Well, I don't consider that a statement of the ego. I consider that a statement of observation, because isn't the work of others ultimately only there, and not that we don't admire it later, but part of our own preparation? And so that we should get to a point that our utterance is the thing that we love.
Yeah, I don't go to galleries. I'm not interested. I see, all of the imitation.
Mm-hmm.
You look on Instagram, these artists have no possibility of doing something representative. You see, each one of my works, there's one very interesting one that's an Italian village seen from a whizzing car on the highway. That's just the rendering of that was magnificent. I couldn't believe it was happening the way I wanted it, exactly. Something so difficult. No one is going to know what that means, but it's actually there. This is a representational work.
Yes.
I think that artists have to stop this abstract stuff and start going into seeing deeply your world around you as your eye sees it at that moment. It always had haunted me driving in Italy. No one would ever know that, but that's what that is to me.
Should we leave it a mystery to those watching, or may I go get it?
No, we'll leave it a mystery.
We'll leave it a mystery. All right.
It's not in this book either. No.
Okay. Do you know where I think it appears? Was it 2 years ago, in the article about you in the New York Times?
Isn't that you? What a memory you have. Nobody's ever even mentioned that article.
It's over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Yes. So those who want to see it, who are intrigued by the mystery of what Mr. Duval just referenced, it's in, I guess it would be 2023 that article ran? I'm a little bit unsure.
There was a photographer here doing that. I wish I knew his name. He was great. He said, called me. You know, he had many, many pictures of me that I would like to have, but I
Mhm.
don't know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
I want to read you this.
Yes. And what is this from?
This is an essay called Mysteries by Hermann Hesse.
Okay.
And he's talking about what we were talking about. Let me see. Presumably, no reader ever thinks at all about this. Can become a concern and torment to the writer. Why must I, apparently in contradiction to all my native feelings, place my creations, the dear children of my joy and care, the fabric woven from the finest substance of my life, before the eyes of strangers,
Mm.
and look on while they come upon the market, are overvalued and undervalued, praised and spat upon, honored or abused? Why can I not withhold them, at most showing them to a friend, but preventing their publication or not allowing it until after my death?
Mm.
Is it desire for fame? Hermann Hesse asks. Is it vanity? A wish to attack or an unconscious desire to be attacked that has brought me again and again to send my dear children into the world and expose them to misunderstanding, chance, vulgarity? Quite.
Mm-hmm.
He's thinking hard.
And is he only speaking from the point of view of imagining an artist who may be submitting works in other mediums, but he's only thinking from the point of view of the writer?
Writer,
Mm-hmm.
which of course he's not selling anything for 30 and 40 years, and all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
he becomes a culture hero here in the United States in the 70s. You remember?
Mm.
Everyone was reading Hermann Hesse.
Right.
And Farrar, Straus, and Giroux, if I'm not mistaken,
Mm-hmm.
made a fortune from him.
Okay.
Anyway, he goes on. That is one question from which the artist never completely escapes. For the world pays us, not us. I mean, even
Right.
now, no one gets paid for their work, almost nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Pianists will go to heaven to give a recital for nothing, you see.
Yes.
They so much want to play.
Yes.
To be sure, for our creations, sometimes even more money than they are worth we get, but it pays us not with life. This is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Not with soul or with happiness, but merely with substance, but simply with what it has to give, dash, money,
Mm.
honors, inclusion in lists of the famous. You know, I have a honorary doctorate degree from SUNY.
Yes, from Stony Brook, am I
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
I don't even know where it is.
The college?
I never put it in a frame. I
Oh,
don't
you
know.
mean the actual diploma?
Yeah,
But
diploma.
did you go
I went there and made a
and-
speech.
and you made a speech?
Yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm.
So I'm a Dr. David Duval.
Yes.
Sony University, 60 colleges or 65.
Yes.
SUNY, yeah. And I remember the day going there. It was very, very raining.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the stupid speech by another one that got a doctorate, and I made a marvelous speech. And came home, never saw it again. Years ago.
The diploma, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I understand.
No, too lazy to put it in a frame.
Okay.
With substance, but simply with what it has to give: money, honors, inclusion in lists of the famous. Yes, the world can give the most unlikely responses to an artist's work. This, for instance, an artist works for a people who are his natural field of observation and knowledge and his natural market as well. The people, however, allow the work created for them to wither on the vine. We're talking about that with the composers and Weber. He's
Yes.
withered. He's a genius. Ravel said everything about romanticism comes from Weber.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Not the quote is a little different, but
All
it's
right.
It's exactly that.
All right.
They deny the artist recognition as well as bread. Then suddenly a foreign people, he's talking about himself, discover him and give him the disappointed author what he has more or less earned, recognition and bread. They give him recognition and bread. Finally, this publication of Farrar Straus did all of his novels, and I mean, this guy was a cultural hero in America.
And this particular volume is called?
This one is My Belief. And there's one essay about, who I believe is Fritz Kreisler, unnamed, about the idea of the virtuoso and the musician. And it's brilliant.
Right.
Why did he understand it so well? Because Hesse was a painter, wrote one of the greatest novellas of all time, of minor authors, called Klingsor's Last Summer, about a painter. And he himself was a watercolorist, good one, and he was a good violinist.
Oh, so that accounts for the Chrysler reaction.
Yes.
I see, okay.
I'm sure it's Chrysler. It is, every musician should read that.
All right.
Even though it's from 1927 and things have changed, the basic impulse of the virtuoso and musician lies very much so in every certainly Horowitz was castigated. Oh, he is no musician, he's just a virtuoso. Or so and so, oh, he's just an entertainer. Well, all art is an entertainment. Thank goodness we have some entertainments of the highest level. We just happen to be in a period, and I hope it goes someday, that we're in a period of such low-level vulgarity and taste that I cry.
Well, you're right. I mean, look how even old Hollywood could say what you just said in that wonderful opening number, or near opening number, in the movie Bandwagon, in the song That's Entertainment. Even when referencing Oedipus Rex, where they summarize it as a guy kills his father and causes a lot of bother. So
he sure did.
That, in a sense, sounds like a vulgar way to mention it, but what they're saying is, in the essence, there's also an absolutely elevated sense of diversion, which is nothing wrong with that. I mean, it should absorb to the point that it's as diverting as seeming to be something that we can call entertaining, even though that sounds like a mere dismissal.
Jack, you have it again. That's so wonderful. No, really something, we have so many divisions, the lowest call themselves an artist, and the highest wouldn't dare even use the word.
Entertainer, you mean?
Entertainer, yes. Or they wouldn't even use the word really artist, such as, Miro wouldn't ever use a word artist for himself. They were craftsmen often in their mind, even as late as abstract expressionism.
Well, that's why I think, again, that number in the movie Bandwagon is so glorious, because in the beginning of the scene, Fred Astaire's character balks at working with the director because the director is usually only associated with imagined, elevated stage works. But the director, if you remember the scene, pushes back and argues that everything is entertainment. And it's a wonderful,
it's an extraordinary
number.
Yes.
And Oscar Levant is in the number.
So was he entertainment of the high?
Entertainment in terms of absolutely the whole breadth, from the highest of high art to popular song, and it's through your own.
Composed a magnificent song.
Yes.
What was the name of it? A real big hit.
Blame It on My Youth.
Blame It on My Youth by Oscar Levant.
Oscar Levant.
There's a biography that says almost a genius or something like that. Of Oscar Levant. No, he was. Of course, he was.
Yes.
His Sonatina for piano is terrific. All of these piano works. The great man was on radio. He had information that nobody had. It's a shame that and a very good pianist. Oh, delicious pianist at times.
And this brings us full circle. The one recording I've heard of a Rubinstein piano concerto is Oscar Levant as a soloist.
How interesting! Yes.
So
he did the Rubinstein Fourth, which nobody did.
That's right. So he was sympathetic to kings that had been dethroned.
We're going to end this perfectly magnificent conversation. At least I've had.
I feel the same.
Greatest honor talking to you. Privilege. With that, say it again.
Well, that Oscar Levant, in playing the Rubinstein Concerto, well into an era where the Rachmaninoff concertos had become the ruling power, he felt sympathy to a sovereign that no longer held the throne.
And I also have great love, so I have a good reason for admiration for the great Oscar Levant, because yes, indeed, he had so many aspects to him that it's just delicious to think about him, and that droll comedy and that greatness as a movie star. He's ending up to be one of the great movie stars, crazy as it seems.
Yes, I mean, and I don't say this with the way people usually mean it as a dismissive thing. He was all over the place at the best of levels. Remarkable.
Be it with Jack Parr or
Yes.
just taking his drugs. I mean,
or writing his autobiographies, or
oh, those books are marvelous.
yes,
If anyone wants to have some fun, read the memoirs of a amnesiac, and I think two others that are.
The Unimportance of Being Oscar. I can
Oh.
never remember the third one.
I can't either. Maybe
Yes,
it
but
wasn't
they're
as
wonderful
good.
books.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of books that I never committed to reading, and yet I would go into the library between classes in graduate school and or I would know that if I have 20 minutes, I'm going to go pull the Oscar Levant book off the shelf and then put it back. And after only a few weeks, I had been through them all, and they're glorious.
Oscar Levant, this program is dedicated to you because
Yes.
you built a separate niche, which many of us can follow, of culture.
Agreed, yes.
Wow. Jack,
David,
what a great time.
I feel the same.
Again, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here.
And again, happy 2026.
Oh, yes. This
Yes.
is the first of our broadcasts
It
in
is.
2026.
Mhm.
And as you say, up, and away, Superman, right?
That's right.
Up, and away. What else is out that?
From Superman's
Yeah.
mantra? Oh, so many. Faster than a
Oh.
speeding bullet and more powerful than a locomotive.
Well, I don't want any bullets anymore, but Superman could stop them, you
Yes,
see.
he could. That's right.
Okay.
All right. Till next time.
Till next time, my friends, please tell your friends about our conversation and tune in for all of it or whatever you like.
Yes. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.